And welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us here on Morning Live. And today, of course, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And this day officially marked by and launched by the United Nations. But of course, it also marks the launch of the 16 Days of Activism Campaign here in South Africa. And this year's theme is the year of Charlotte Maxeke, 16 Days of Activism, moving from awareness to accountability. Leanne Manas is in Soweto this morning. She is at Pimville at the Zoe Bible Church where this broadcast is taking place. So let's cross over to Leanne to find out who she has with her as we kick off the awareness campaign. Leanne, good morning.
Sakina, yes, a very good morning to you and good morning to all of our viewers this morning on Morning Live, and a very important broadcast that we're doing this morning, and it is all about the launch of the 16 Days of Activism, No Violence Against Women and Children. This is, you know, I know I've seen a lot of people talking on social media saying, here we go, another launch, more speeches, money thrown into something that actually doesn't see results. But, you know, the reality is, and we'll pose those questions to, you know, the minister when we do hear from her. I've got the DG with me as well, who I'll introduce in just a few seconds' time. But, you know, the reality is that we need to keep the awareness going. We need to educate South Africans, women in particular, and children that, you know, their lives are certainly worth a lot more than what is now currently being experienced by so many. During the COVID times, we saw the amount of abuse rising to exponential rates. And, you know, the reality is that we do have a scourge in South Africa when it comes to domestic abuse. And it is a very, very big problem. You know, this is a day that obviously is seen around the world. It is not just here in South Africa, but certainly South Africa really needing to heed the call when it comes to the amount of women that are murdered through domestic violence, the amount of children that are abused every single day. You know, one can only imagine that so many women are waking up today to a new day. And, you know, for them, it's like living in a nightmare every single day of their lives, because the trend just never, ever stops. And, you know, these are the kind of things that we need to talk about. Where do you go for help? How do you get help? Is the justice system working for the victims of gender-based violence? Talking to the criminal system, talking to the police. Are they trained to deal with this? Do we see these cases getting through the system? I mean, there are so many unanswered questions and so many issues that are needed to try and help the situation more. So that is something that we certainly are looking at and hoping that we'll be able to get some of those answers today and work around how we are able to fix it. All right, now I've got my guest with me. I'm just going to ask our just to see if we can get another mic in. We have got the Director General of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Advocate Maxeke Joyce Maluleke. I've got all right, we're just trying to get it working. I'm going to take a step forward to you. I don't want to break any COVID protocols because I don't want to get too close, but we'll try and get that mic working. But, you know, a day like this, DG, is so important. And, you know, we cannot emphasize it enough, because this is the day where we shine a spotlight on an issue that has been with us for so long and, in my opinion, appears to be getting worse. Talk to us about this.
Yes, I think all of us are worried because it seems as if gender-based violence. But also, there are those that are unhappy. They've also raised it with me to say, DG, you guys seem like a submarine. You disappear after the 10th of December, you come back the 25th. And I always say, no, it's 365 days. However, 25th November to 10 December, that's where we highlight the awareness raising, because awareness raising is also part of prevention. Even though this year the theme has changed, it's not just awareness. We're saying moving away from awareness to accountability, because we've been making everyone aware of the impact of gender-based violence. However, it continues. So now we say everyone is responsible. Government, private sector, civil society organization, labor, everyone is involved to ensure that gender-based violence doesn't happen.
Yeah. There we go. Thank goodness there's your mic. It is ready, so I can take a step back there. You know, DG, and I understand the criticism from a lot of South Africans when we talk to the fact that, yes, it's the submarine, like you disappear and then you suddenly come up. quickly organize these events. The reality is that we know that you're working, but it just feels like so much more needs to be done. You know, when we look at the justice system, when we look at how abusers just get away with it, how police handle these cases, how women that have been abused are treated. You know, these are the kind of things that we talk about them all the time, but they don't seem to be getting better. How are we addressing these kind of issues?
You know, Leanne, I think the biggest challenge that we have, now I'll talk about the service providers, the criminal justice system as a whole. You have a force of 200,000 police officers. You have, I think, 70,000 or more investigating officers. So people will tell you that they've not been trained. They are being trained. However, how long does it take for you to train a force of 200,000? So maybe those might be some of the challenges, but they are trained. But also amongst them, there are jewels. You find jewels, those that will treat victims properly, but you find others and you think this is a devil. So it's one of those things where you'll find different people, even in the courts, your clerks, your magistrates, your judges. Some of them, they understand, and even the way they will come up or take a decision, you'll realize that they understand and they empathize. However, you find others who just withdraw the matter for whatever technical reasons. So those are some of the challenges that as a department, as the lead of the IMC Interministerial Committee on Gender-Based Violence, we focus on. We have a task team that is going to the courts, assisting people, but also establishing rapid response teams in the local municipalities, because some of the challenges is that there are challenges, but people don't know where to go, or when they go to the police station, they don't get assistance. So they need to know where to go. People will be able to pull the strings in order to assist them.
Yeah, you know, the reality is that, I mean, I'm looking at the theme for this year, 16 days of activism, moving from awareness to accountability. You know, it's one thing having a theme and saying, right, now we're moving to accountability, it's important, we need to do this, we've created awareness, but women do not want to come forward. And there are many issues they don't want to come forward because they are treated badly. Where do they go? What do they do? Are there enough protection facilities for the women that want to step forward? I mean, when we're working in a country that has got an unemployment rate that we do have, a lot of women are beholden to the abusive relationships because they have nowhere to go.
Yes.
And that's the reality. Can we already start looking at accountability when this is a big problem? We don't have it in the higher structures.
The National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence has got 6 pillars. The first one is what the theme is all about, is accountability. However, Pillar 5 is about economic power, because we understand that without economic power, women can't move out from those relationships. They end up staying until they're killed, because they can't go anywhere. There are not enough shelters. Yes, there are shelters, but there are not enough shelters. I think we have about 8 districts where there are no shelters. And all that has been discovered because the team that is led by the Department of Women is doing the research to look at what exists, what doesn't exist, how can we improve the services.
Yeah. And that's something, I mean, you've identified these areas, and what are you doing about it? I mean, can you actively say now, those areas that do not have these shelters are now having shelters? Or is it still a discussion that needs to be seen and finding the place? And are we working fast on these gaps?
Yes, we're working on that. Remember, it also needs a budget. And as a country, our budget, our fiscus is in serious problem. However, the Department of Social Development is working on establishing those shelters in those 8 areas. But also, it's not just the Department of Social Development, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure also has identified buildings, government buildings, that are not utilized for renovation so that they can be able to turn them into shelters.
Yeah, and one hopes that this happens as a matter of urgency and offers the women protection that do go there, because, you know, if it's obviously something that the abuser knows, you know, where the person is, their lives are threatened even more. And these are the kind of things that one has to keep in the back of their minds. But if we look at the issues of existing international and regional human rights laws, how do they effectively address gender-based violence? And do you think they are effective enough?
You see, the challenge with the international laws, most of the time they're not binding. A country accedes to them. However, I think with South Africa, we do have the best laws, which are even better than the international laws, whatever provisions that are provided by the international laws. So the challenge with South Africa is expanding the implementation of those laws. Our laws are the best, amongst the best.
Of course they are, and we know that. It is always the case that on paper South Africa has the best.
Yes.
We have the best constitution, we have the best laws. But in practice, we the worst. And I do say that because when you look at the rates of abuse amongst women, we are amongst the worst in the world. And it shouldn't be when on paper the law governing this is very, very harsh against abusers, but they don't get that. So, you know, there has to be blame given somewhere, and I think that we do need to look at the implementation of it all, because that's where I think we're dropping the ball badly.
Yes, the accountability in that theme is exactly that. It's accountability for all service providers. People will tell you that we went to the police station and were treated badly or we were turned back. So how is that person held accountable for the action that they've done when they have to provide a service? Somebody went to court, they turned them back, or, you know, they treated them badly. On Monday, we had a webinar on maintenance, enforcement of maintenance. There was an attorney who said to me, I have been treated so badly being an attorney. What then happens to an ordinary person who's not a professional, who doesn't know the law? So those are some of the challenges that we have. That's why when we talk accountability, we're saying all government departments, ministers, that we have it. That is why we have an IMC, Interministerial Committee, constituted by, chaired by our minister, constituted by Minister of Justice, Minister of Police, Minister of Social Development, DPSA, and Minister of Finance, where we are saying all of us have a responsibility to ensure that our departments, they provide a service to victims.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's lovely to hear that there are these committees and councils and you've got such heavyweights that are sitting on there. But if I may, what has actually been done? If we can just take this last year, where we saw gender-based violence during the hard lockdown in South Africa being at a high that we've never ever seen, and we can understand that women were forced to be locked inside with their abusers with nowhere to go. So let's just look in this year, what has that committee done? What have you achieved?
There's a lot that we've achieved. For example, as I said, that we are establishing the response teams in the municipalities, because for us to be at the national office and be a task team, that doesn't have impact there. When somebody in a community has been a victim, they need to know exactly where to go. But the challenge that we have, Leanne, is that the justice system comes in after the fact. So we need to ensure that we prevent. Yeah. The Department of Basic Education is also part of the task team that is implementing the National Strategic Plan. They're looking at their curriculum in terms of ensuring that children are taught at an early age that violence is not acceptable. You don't solve your problems by violence, but there are other means of solving violence, but also respect your fellow students or wherever you are. Respect all those people that are there.
You know, one of the criticisms, and I just think about this because I know that I'm going to get even more emotional when I speak to some of the victims of gender-based violence. And, you know, when I look at government, and when government takes something really, really seriously, they act on it and very harshly. I mean, we look at when things are put in place to try and combat COVID, which is, it's vitally important. It is a pandemic, but gender-based violence is a pandemic as well. Now, many South Africans are asking the question, why is the energy not the way we see energy being put into trying to combat COVID, and from the beginning and all of the attention on that? Why do we not see that going to gender-based violence, where in reality we probably see more women being killed and affected by gender-based violence than they would do from COVID? And this is a reality, is that I think we talk a lot, but the implementation is too slow. Like you say, the budgets are not there, that the justice system is not on board, the police are acting too slow, they're not trained to handle it. These are the same things that I've been hearing every single year, and the situation's just getting worse. It just feels that the urgency is not there.
The urgency is there, Leanne, and as earlier on when I said the police, they are trained, but maybe when you look at the number, the significance of the training sometimes becomes minimal. We have developed legislation the National Council on Gender-Based Violence. In 2018, when a civil society marched to the union building, one of the things that they've requested was that a council be established. The council has been, the bill has been developed, it's been consulted, we'll be consulting NEDLEC very soon. The council will ensure that it raises the funds, it gets funds from government, but also raise funds in order to be able to coordinate the implementation of the laws or the national strategic plan in every area. We've already started, however, when the council comes, it will take the responsibility. Also, government has changed the laws. There are 4 laws that the president, no, the 3 that are still in parliament, but one, I think it's important for South Africans to know. Previously, the prescription for rape was 20 years. Now it doesn't prescribe. Somebody can still come back after 30 years. The law has been changed in order to ensure that we remove the prescription. But the Domestic Violence Act, the Sexual Offences Act, and the Criminal Amendment Law has been amended to ensure that stiffer sentences are given for rape and domestic violence, to ensure that victims can apply using a phone wherever they are. They can apply electronically rather than be at the court, because sometimes that's where the challenge is for them to go to the court. They'll be able to get the protection order. But now the problem, Leanne, is the protection order. When you're holding the protection order against the person who doesn't care, it doesn't help. He'll still beat you. So how do we deal with that so that we protect women and children before they are abused? So that's where the community and everybody else comes in. How do we raise the children? What is it that we do in order to ensure that they respect the next person? Because prevention is the most important, rather than coming to the criminal court, rather than coming to the justice system.
All right, DG, I'm going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. I know that we've got a lot more coming here on the program, and of course the Minister should be speaking to us at around about 7:15, somewhere around there. I think that's where her address will be happening. And then we've got a lot of guests thereafter that will continue to talk about this issue. But DG, thank you. Thanks very much for talking to us here on the program. Advocate Maxeke Joyce Maluleke, the Director General of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. All right, let's go back to the Johannesburg studio now, and let's, I think we're taking a break, or we're going to news, but I'm going to hand it back to Joburg.